"It's a little berangement of my own, Daddy dear," said Taffy. "If you won't ask me questions, you'll know all about it in a little time, and you'll be surprised. You don't know how surprised you'll be, Daddy. Promise you'll be surprised." "Very well," said Tegumai, and went on fishing. The stranger man, did you know he was a Tiwara, hurried away with the picture and ran for some miles, till quite by accident he found Teshumai Tewindro at the door of her cave, talking to some other Neolithic ladies who had come in to a primitive lunch. Taffy was very like Teshumai, especially about the upper part of the face and the eyes, so the stranger man, always a pure Tiwara, smiled politely and handed Teshumai the birch bark. He had run hard, so that he panted, and his legs were scratched with brambles, but he still tried to be polite. As soon as Teshumai saw the picture, she screamed like anything and flew at the stranger man. The other Neolithic ladies at once knocked him down and sat on him in a long line of 6, while Teshumai pulled his hair. "It's plain as the nose on this stranger's face," she said. "He has struck my Tegumai all full of spears, and frightened poor Taffy so that her hair stands all on end. And, not content with that, he brings me a horrid picture of how it was done. Look!" She showed the picture to all the Neolithic ladies sitting patiently on the stranger man. "Here is my Tegumai with his arm broken. Here is a spear sticking into his back. Here is a man with a spear ready to throw, and here's another man throwing a spear from a cave. And here are a whole pack of people" they were Taffy's beavers, really, but they did look rather like people "coming up behind Tegumai. Isn't it shocking?" "Most shocking," said the Neolithic ladies, and they filled the stranger man's hair with mud, at which he was surprised. And they beat upon the reverberating tribal drums, and called together all the chiefs of the tribe of Tegumai, with their hetmans and dolmens, all negoses, woons, and aroons of the organization, in addition to the warlocks, angelocks, juju men, bonzes, and the rest, who decided that before they chopped the stranger man's head off, he should instantly lead them down to the river and show them where he had hidden poor Taffy. By this time the stranger man, in spite of being a Tiwara, was really annoyed. They had filled his hair quite solid with mud, they had rolled him up and down on knobbly pebbles, they had sat upon him in a long line of 6, they had thumped him and bumped him till he could hardly breathe, and though he did not understand their language, he was almost sure that the names the Neolithic ladies called him were not ladylike. However, he said nothing till all the tribe of Tegumai were assembled, and then he led them back to the bank of the Wagai River, where they found Taffy making daisy chains, and Tegumai carefully spearing small carp with his mended spear. "Well, you have been quick," said Taffy. "But why did you bring so many people? Daddy dear, this is my surprise. Are you surprised, Daddy?" "Very," said Tegumai, "but it's ruined all my fishing for the day. Why, the whole dear, kind, nice, clean, quiet tribe is here, Taffy." And so they were. First of all walked Teshumai Tewindro and the Neolithic ladies, tightly holding on to the stranger man, whose hair was full of mud, although he was a Tiwara. Behind them came the head chief, the vice chief, the deputy and assistant chiefs, all armed to the upper teeth, the hetmans and heads of hundreds, platoffs with their platoons, and dolmens with their detachments, woons, negoses, and arkoons ranking in the rear, still armed to the teeth. Behind them was the tribe in hierarchical order, from owners of 4 caves, one for each season, a private reindeer run, and 2 salmon leaps, to feudal Protagonist villains, semi-entitled to half a bearskin of winter's nights, 7 yards from the fire, and adscript serfs holding the reversion of a scraped marrow-bone under Heriot. Aren't those beautiful words, best beloved? They were all there, prancing and shouting, and they frightened every fish for 20 miles. And Tegumai thanked them in a fluid Neolithic oration. Then Teshumai Tewindro ran down and kissed and hugged Taffy very much indeed. But the head chief of the tribe of Tegumai took Tegumai by the topknot feathers and shook him severely. "Explain! Explain! Explain!" cried all the tribe of Tegumai. "Goodness sakes alive!" said Tegumai. "Let go of my topknot. Can't a man break his carp spear without the whole countryside descending on him?" "You're a very interfering people." "I don't believe you've brought my daddy's black-handled spear after all," said Taffy. "And what are you doing to my nice stranger man?" They were thumping him by 2s and 3s and 10s, till his eyes turned round and round. He could only gasp and point at Taffy. "Where are all the bad people who speared you, my darling?" said Teshumai to Windrow. "There weren't any," said Tegumai. "My only visitor this morning was the poor fellow that you're trying to choke. Aren't you well, or are you ill, O tribe of Tegumai?" "He came with a horrible picture," said the head chief. "A picture that showed you were full of spears." "Uh, um, perhaps I'd better explain that I gave him that picture," said Taffy, but she did not feel quite comfy. "You!" said the tribe of Tegumai all together. "Small person with no manners who ought to be spanked. You!" "Taffy, dear, I'm afraid we're in for a little trouble," said her daddy, and put his arm round her so she didn't care. "Explain, explain, explain," said the head chief of the tribe of Tegumai, and he hopped on one foot. "I wanted the stranger man to fetch Daddy's spear, so I drawed it," said Taffy. "There wasn't lots of spears, there was only one spear. I drawed it 3 times to make sure. I couldn't help it looking as if it stuck into Daddy's head. There wasn't room on the birch bark. And those things that Mummy called bad people are my beavers. I drawed them to show the way through the swamp, and I drawed Mummy at the mouth of the cave looking pleased, because he is a nice stranger man, and I think you're just the stupidest people in the world," said Taffy. "He's a very nice man. Why have you filled his hair with mud? Wash him." Nobody said anything at all for a long time, till the head chief laughed. Then the stranger man, who was at least a Tiwara, laughed. Then Tegumai laughed till he fell down flat on the bank. Then all the tribe laughed more and worse and louder. The only people who did not laugh were Teshumai to Windrow and all the Neolithic ladies. They were very polite to all their husbands, and said "idiot" ever so often. Then the head chief of the tribe of Tegumai cried and said and sang, "Oh, small person without any manners who ought to be spanked, you've hit upon a great invention." "I didn't intend to. I only wanted Daddy's black-handled spear," said Taffy. "Never mind, it is a great invention, and some day men will call it writing. At present it's only pictures, and, as we have seen to day, pictures are not always perfectly understood. But a time will come, O babe of Tegumai, when we shall make letters, all 26 of 'em, and when we shall be able to read as well as to write, and then we shall always say exactly what we mean without any mistakes. Let the Neolithic ladies wash the mud out of the stranger's hair." "I should be glad of that," said Taffy, "because, after all, though you've brought every single other spear in the tribe of Tegumai, you've forgotten my Daddy's black-handled spear." Then the head chief cried and said and sang, "Taffy, dear, the next time you write a picture letter, you'd better send a man who can talk our language with it to explain what it means. I don't mind it myself, because I am a head chief, but it's very bad for the rest of the tribe of Tegumai, and, as you can see, it surprises the stranger." Then they adopted the stranger man, a genuine Tiwara of Tewa, into the tribe of Tegumai, because he was a gentleman and did not make a fuss about the mud that the Neolithic ladies had put into his hair. But from that day to this, and I suppose it is all Taffy's fault, very few little girls ever liked learning to read or write. Most of them prefer to draw pictures and play about with their daddies, just like Taffy. There runs a road by Merrowdown, a grassy track today it is, an hour out of Guildford town, above the river Wey it is. Here, when they heard the horse bells ring, the ancient Britons dressed and rode to watch the dark Phoenicians bring their goods along the western road. And here, or hereabouts, they met to hold their racial talks and such, to butter beads for Whitby jet, and tin for gay shell talks and such. But long and long before that time, when bison used to roam on it, did Taffy and her daddy climb that down and had their home on it. Then beavers built in Broadstone Brook, and made a swamp where Bramley stands. And here's from Sheer would come and look for Taffymai where Shamley stands. The way that Taffy called Wagai was more than 6 times bigger then, and all the tribe of Tegumai, they cut a noble figure then. Description of the picture by the author. This is the story of Taffymai Metalumai carved on an old tusk